Hello, Jeff here, and welcome to the first minicast, a monthly podcast series about miniatures and miniature gaming. This episode is all about the pitch battle scenario, a common game type that I think could use a bit of work. I've been thinking a lot about game scenarios and what makes them interesting. One thing I've noticed is most, if not all systems I've encountered have their own version of a pitch battle in the scenario section of the book. The standard two sides set up across from each other with no objective other than total annihilation or routing of the enemy. For me, what makes a pitch battle exciting is the tactical thought needed to turn a mostly open board in your favour. The deployment and movement of troops is incredibly important in a pitch battle, and trying to draw your opponent into bad engagements is the key to victory. However, after movement it can feel like the pitch battle is a bit bland. While attempting to outmaneuver my opponent is one of my favourite components to wargaming, sometimes I feel like I need more to do in a game. That's why pitch battles have lost my interest. I barely ever play a pitch battle anymore, almost always opting for an objective-based scenario because the important tactical decisions needed in a pitch battle are present in every scenario you play. The pitch battle almost always turns into both players attempting to outposition each other, and that can get a bit boring until one player decides to just push an engagement simply to have something happen. In light of all this, I have been thinking of ways to make a pitch battle a little more exciting while avoiding adding things like objectives and thus changing the scenario. A few ideas which I've come up with that I think work pretty well in making a pitch battle feel more involved and not just a mash-up of rank and file troops include using a narrow board, which I found made the positioning of ranged units more important, and being in a corridor force units to engage or suffer consistent range damage. I've tried this a couple of times now with different builds in a couple of different games, and each time it's made for a more exciting game than just a standard pitch battle. Especially in the case that you have large armies, the narrow board gives even more importance to deployment and movement as it becomes harder to maneuver your troops for favourable engagements and mistakes become easier to make. The second idea I had was to fill the board with terrain. Again, doing this restricts troop movements and can create areas of the board that hold strategic value without explicitly giving them an objective marker, which I think is cool. If there are 2, 3, or even just a single choke point, things start to get interesting. Throwing in a mixture of impassable terrain, line of sight blocking terrain, and terrain which provides cover and or slows units down forces additional strategy to be implemented into the game. Through adding lots of terrain came my third idea, to utilize magical or effect-based terrain. Terrain which grants bonuses or debuffs units, beyond providing cover and slowing units, or even causes damage to adjacent units. This is common in fantasy and sci-fi based games, but is something I seem to neglect using in my games. I recently had a couple of games of AOS with my friend, and we decided to use magical forests for 2 of our terrain pieces, and it just added this element to the game which I really enjoyed, but had previously just tended to neglect. They again force a certain level of strategical thinking into a game, whether you are trying to gain a positive effect or avoid a negative one. Even trying to force your opponent into taking a negative effect, magical or effect-based terrain add a lot to the game. And really, they don't have to be restricted to fantasy and sci-fi, they can be used in historical games. Things like statues or important buildings could provide courage to troops, marshes and fast-flowing rivers could risk damaging units which cross. There's a lot you could do. Those are my thoughts on adding some new life to the pitch battle scenario. There's nothing wrong with a mostly open field for a battle. In fact, it's probably the more accurate way of conducting large-scale battles. However, I think that changing up the board holds huge potential in making a game more interesting to play. Let me know your thoughts on the topic. Anything you do to make them more exciting, avoid them altogether, or completely disagree with me? Leave a comment or even make your own video. I like to see what other people think about it. But for now, as always, thanks a lot for watching and I'll see you on my next one. Bye for now.